Many of you have already seen our first ever fights with Dequitem on his channel. If not, then what the hell are you still doing here? Find links in the description to his masterfully edited videos with us, and I will see you back here in a couple of minutes or more.
A few minutes later.
All done? Good. For our video, we want to share lessons that we took away from those fights, with this great footage playing in the background. During pauses between clashes, together with Dequitem, we exchanged a great deal of observations that we think you will find to be very interesting. There are a few things we want to say, so let's begin as not to bore you with a prolonged introduction. Let's start with talking about legionary gear. To be honest, Dequitem was the first serious fighter that we have ever faced. This guy does not really restrain himself too much in combat. Finally, someone with balls big enough for it. Given what I have just said, other than a test for us, these fights were also a great test for our legionary gear. And as you will see, it did surprisingly well. A Scutum shield, although not designed for fighting outside of formation, was quite easy to operate and protected us to a great degree. Even in moments when we were overwhelmed by Dequitem's charge, we were able to survive thanks to the shield doing a lot of work for us. Speaking of the legionary shield, you must know that it has a reversed grip to that of most of the medieval shields. Dequitem, being used to medieval shields, wanted to take advantage of his experience, and with a hook of his hammer tried to rip out our skuta from our hands. However, the opposite happened. The overhand grip, together with Scutum's size and weight, made him lose his weapon instead. Just like in case of Scutum, our armors and helmets also did exceptionally well. Both passively took a lot more hits than we expected. This only proves that legionaries were indeed a heavy infantry. Socus, who wore a manicle, the metal sleeve, virtually had only one body part left uncovered, that being his face, to which he suffered a blow.
Oh, fuck, sorry. All fine? I'm fine.
Fortunately, a fairly gentle one.
Then we can move away that way.
There was also one instance where Dequitem hit me in the face with the handle of his poleaxe. Or at least that's what he thought happened. After the fight, he was quite surprised to learn that his strike was stopped either by the cheek pieces or the frontal reinforcement of my Galea helmet. Lastly, there is Gladius, the legionary sword, that we ought to address. Again, it did better than we expected. We managed to deliver a few precise thrusts that would make Dequitem bleed out, if only we were using steel. We think that this accuracy is owed to the sword's size. Thanks to it being so short, the thrusting is accurate. Although to counter such a heavily armored enemy, it would be better to use something different that was available to the Roman legionaries. What I am talking about is a dolabra, a fusion of a pickaxe and an axe that legionaries used to build their fortified encampments, and as it turns out, also at times to fight the enemies that were fully covered in armor, like the Persian cataphracts. That's why in one of the fights, instead of a gladius, I picked up a hammer to finish off Dequitem. Now let's talk about where we were at a disadvantage and what we could have done better. Despite us having less armor, it was Dequitem who was faster. I guess a dozen or so centuries of extra technological development did the trick. Also, in contrast to common belief, knight armor is not very restrictive, but all of you who watch Dequitem should already know that. Although what surprised us was the size of the gap between him and us. Seems like scutum is to blame here. Good thing that it has other advantages, like the ones that we've discussed before. Then there are medieval weapons. We got to play out 5 fights, during which we countered a poleaxe and a mace wielded together with a warhammer. These weapons were developed essentially to counter plate armor, whereas our gladi were mostly used to penetrate unarmored opponents. In consequence, we had to be very accurate, and Dequitem could just go full berserk mode. Trust me when I say that his weapons, although being made out of rubber, did leave us quite sore, even though most of the hits landed on the plates of Lorica segmentata. When it comes to analyzing the things that we could have done better, first and foremost we need to talk about coordination. After all, these were 2v1 fights, giving us a numerical advantage that was not used to its full potential by us. Of course, because there were only 2 of us, any kind of formation was impossible to make. As it turned out later, the best thing to do was to keep Dequitem in a semi-encirclement, where the 3 of us would form a right-angled triangle. Thanks to that, our knightly opponent was able to control only 1 legionary at the time. Moreover, this arrangement also took advantage of the fact that Dequitem's helmet does restrict his vision a little, making it impossible for him to clearly see our movement. However, because our opponent is an extremely experienced fighter, he soon found a way to mitigate our numerical advantage. What he did was forcing himself between the 2 of us, so that we would form a line with him in the middle. Both in case of a poleaxe and dual wielding, this allowed him to better control the 2 of us. It's best to explain it on a poleaxe. While attacking one of us with a poleaxe head, Dequitem could fairly easily control the other legionary with a butt spike of his weapon. I think that's enough analysis from us. For more and a different perspective, you can also watch a recording of Dequitem's livestream where he discussed our fights. You can also find a link to this video in the description below. Other than that, I hope to read some of your insightful commentary, so do not hesitate to share your thoughts in the comments. As always, thank you for watching, and remember, Carthago delenda est, et Roma caput mundi.